To discuss the problem of unemployment, I'm pleased to be joined by the head of the National Bureau for Statistics and Nigeria's Statistician General, Dr. Yemi Kale. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm also very happy to have with me in the studio the Special Advisor to the President on Social Investment Program, Mrs. Mariam Owais. Thank you, ma'am, for coming.
Thank you.
The Program Manager for the Civil Society Organization, Youth Initiative for Advocacy, Growth and Advancement, Cynthia Mbamalu, is also with us in the studio.
Thank you.
And finally, on my panel is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Leadership, Strategy and Development, Mr. Otiva Ibuzo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming. And of course, I've got a studio audience that will be part of this conversation as we carry on. I'd like to start with you, Dr. Kale, because I think there's a little bit of confusion around the numbers because there's unemployment, there's underemployment. And I'd like to start by discussing, just to get a better sense of what the numbers are so that when we discuss, we're talking about the right thing. When we checked the statistics that you released, we have a number of unemployed at 11.55 million, something like that. Then we are also told that the working age population in Nigeria is about 108.5 or so million, yeah? Then we are also told that those that are in the labor force population are about 81.15. The math for a layman like myself doesn't add up because the difference between 108 million and 81 million is not 11 million. It's closer to 26. So please explain.
Well, thank you. I'm actually happy that we're starting with an understanding of the numbers because I think in solving every challenge that we have in the country, you have to understand what the data says. You have to understand what the problem is before you can resolve the problem. I've realized that I would say there's a lot of, we're not particularly statistics literate in Nigeria, so it creates a lot of confusion. We follow established international standards in defining these problems and in computing those numbers. So you first start off with the economically active population. That's what you said was 101 million. Now these are those within the working age population.
How do you get that data? Because, you know, Nigeria is notorious for not having great data. So how do we know that number?
Well, the economically active population, or the working age population, are those between the ages of 15 and 65.
Now, so is that simple?
Yes, that's just the working age population. Once you are between 15 and 65, you are the age where you are allowed legally to work. Now, whether or not you choose to work or not determines whether you are in the labor force.
Okay, so but given that we haven't had a census in a very long time,
well,
and the numbers tend to sort of fluctuate of the population, I mean,
population data that we use
yes.
to determine the working age population obviously comes from the population census, population commission rather.
Right.
The population commission is the agency that is responsible for getting population-related data. Now, I'm not going to comment on
the validity or
otherwise because that's not within that's not a responsibility of the Bureau of Statistics.
Okay.
But the point is, you start from the working age population. Those the Population Commission estimate are between the ages of 15 and 65. I'm going to comment, like I said, on how they decide what that number is. Then you go to the more important number, which is not the working age population, which is the labor force. Now, the labor force are those that are within the working age population, allowed to work, but that are looking for work.
Okay.
Not everybody that is within the ages of 15 and 65 is looking for work. Some will be students, some will be voluntary housewives or house husbands. Once you're not looking for work, you are not termed as part of the labor force.
Okay.
And that's the part people don't understand. So in fact, you might not have a job, but it doesn't mean you're unemployed. You have to be looking for a job and not able to get a job before you're termed unemployed. So that takes you down from 105 million to about 81 million. Okay. Now, the 81 million is the labor force. That is those that are within the working age population and that are looking for work. Then from there, you break it down to those that are working and those that are not working. And then those that are working, you break it down to what kind of work are you doing? Are you in full-time employment or are you underemployed, which we term those that are doing some form of of work, but does not match their skills or their. So, for example, a graduate that is driving a taxi, he's working. The art of driving a taxi is a job, but that's not a job you expect a graduate to do. That's why in Nigeria you have a situation where underemployment is higher than unemployment. Unemployment basically means you are just sitting down doing nothing at all. Okay. Now, because we don't have social security system yet, yes. People cannot stay at home and do absolutely nothing. After a while, you have to, you go and look for, and once you go and do something and you earn an income, you are working, and now the next step is determine what you are doing relative to your skills and qualifications.
Okay, now that we've sort of have a rough understanding of the numbers and how you arrive at them, I'd like to bring in Mr. Ibuzo here. The work that you do, are you more or less hearing the same thing if you talk to people about unemployment? And what are the implications for a country like Nigeria to have 11 million, some say higher, people unemployed?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, the figures are real. And in fact, for many people, they think it's higher than that. The material I just read, they actually put youth unemployment at 58%.
So this is total population of young people who are eligible to work.
Yes.
What is that number?
That's correct. I think that figure you came, that's an MBS, that's MBS numbers.
Okay.
That comes to, in terms of unemployment, not underemployment, comes to 11.3 million.
So half of the young people who could work in this country.
7.8 million. Sorry for that. 11.3 million.
Half of young Nigerians who could, don't have work.
Don't have work. And it has really a lot of implications. First is that the level of poverty becomes very high. Because people don't have work, they can't meet their basic needs. And if you look at the trend, it's really a terrible thing, because in the 1980s, the level of poverty was about 20%, but it has increased. Now that, depending on the statistics you are looking at, between 60 to 70%, So, secondly, it leads to all kinds of vices in society. It leads to increase in crime. And thirdly, you find out that able people who are able to contribute to economic development are not able to contribute. So it has a lot of negative impact on society. And I think that, over the years, a lot of things led to this situation. And many factors responsible, either as a result of a lack of enabling environment, the power system, because what we know is that across the world today, the greatest number of employment come from the private sector.
Okay, so and we will get opportunity to talk about what the government is doing, what private sector is doing, and whether actually the strategy we're pursuing is the right one. But I'd like to quickly bring in Ms. Mbamalu before we go further, because you run a civic organization that is particularly concerned with young people. What are you hearing about the situation of unemployment, particularly as it concerns the young?
I think for one, it's a major concern, because if you're working with a youth constituency, and as a young person, you're easily connected to the challenges in society. And so let's say, for instance, some months ago, we did a call for application for just want to fill a particular position, and we had over 1,000 applications from young people. Now, at the point of recruitment, at the point of trying to shortlist, you would see that, wow, you open a window of 2-3 weeks because you want to limit the number, but yet you still have this high number of applications coming in. It shows you that you could imagine what is going on at the other sectors. So as a Nigerian, I think we are at this point where it's either we address the situation now, or we are faced with major threat in the future. Because one, you cannot discuss unemployment and underemployment without looking at poverty and its impact on the society and development.
Okay, and we will look at the impact of unemployment on poverty and on the development when we return from this break. Don't go away.